What was the stupidest thing you did as a kid? I ate a slug. Really, I was about 2 or 3 years old and I ate a fucking slug. Whenever somebody brings it up, I gag at the thought of it. I don't remember doing it though. When I was 3 or 4 I managed to stick a pair of rubber gloves in the toaster oven and turned it on to see what would happen. I nearly burned our kitchen down, but my pregnant mother waddled into the kitchen and promptly chucked the flaming toaster oven into the backyard. The stress from this whole ordeal sent my mom into labor later that evening. A few hours later and my sister was born. My cousin dared me to put a rock in my mom's gas tank. I did it. Couple hours later he has to go home. But his mom called to ask if mom could take him home. He stayed the night, and when I heard this I went fucking psycho, screaming that she would die. It took them 10 minutes to calm me down, and when I finally explained they just laughed. Well, I wanted to prank my best friend and ended terribly. We got in the car, and my mom wasn't there yet. I was in the front seat and my friend was in the back seat. This was when cigarette lighters were still a thing. Well, the car wasn't on, so I suspected the lighter wouldn't get hot. I pushed it in, pulled it out and said, "Watch this." Just then, I stuck it right in my thumb, burning it horribly. The whole car smelled like burnt skin. I had the worst burn in the shape of a cigarette lighter on my thumb for weeks. I went to the movies with my aunt and her friend with 2 perfect twin girls. I was chewing gum and didn't want to litter by sticking it under my seat when it lost its flavor. It was summertime and I was wearing shorts. I stuck it behind my knee and figured I'd trash it after the movie ended. Well, movie ends, la bomba I think. And I can't get the gum to come off from behind my knee. I was walking weird and it kinda stuck my leg together at a bent angle, so I couldn't walk normal if I tried. Talk about an awkward moment. Shudder, I still feel those judgy Barbie twins' eyes. When I was about 15 I got into a rock climbing class. I loved it. One summer day when I was home alone I wanted to put those skills to the test. I rigged a harness and rope out of a bunch of dog leashes, a cargo strap, and the naive confidence of youth. I brought out my mom's nice boombox and put on American Idiot. It was fitting for what was about to happen. I then used a ladder from the garage to climb up to the roof, where I strapped my makeshift rope around the chimney. I tugged on it to make sure it was nice and sturdy. It was. Green light for my epic rappel. I lowered myself over the edge of the house. At this point I was probably about 25 feet above the concrete patio. No worries. If I fall, my expertly made harness will catch me just like at the gym. I realized that I couldn't really rappel down very slowly with my setup. There were too many nuts and they were catching every few feet. I decided I'd wrap my hand around the rope so I could just tighten my grip if I was going too fast. That was my mistake. My hand got caught in the rope and now all of my weight was crushing my hand. I couldn't let it go or I would fall. I was also now about 15 feet from the ground. I called out for help, but my mom wasn't home and my neighbors probably couldn't hear me if they were home. After about 5 minutes of dangling there I had no choice. I had to let go and try to roll out of the landing. I let go, fell the 15 feet towards the concrete, and landed. My rope was too long and did nothing to slow my fall. Unfortunately for me, one foot landed on the boombox and it twisted my ankle harshly to the side. I yelped in pain, but since I knew nobody was coming to help I tried to stand up. I couldn't put any weight on my ankle. It hurt too bad. I instead had to army crawl from the patio, through the garage, up a flight of 8 stairs, and into the kitchen. I thought about calling my mom, but I knew she was busy at work and would be home in a couple of hours anyway. I turned on Toonami, put a bag of frozen peas on my ankle and waited. She got home right about when I had expected her. She saw me sitting there watching Hamtaro with peas on my foot and asked what happened. I explained and finished it up with "It hurts like a bitch." I got slapped not only for cursing and breaking her boombox, but for nearly dying while she wasn't home. I deserve that slap. Microwaving a can of vegetable juice. I was either in preschool or kindergarten. My parents were asleep. I woke up early to watch cartoons and pulled some vegetable juice out of the fridge. It was cold, so I thought, hey, I'll warm it up in the microwave. Couple seconds later the microwave starts sparking up and I freaked the fuck out. It left a huge black burn on the bottom. Back in the 90s I guess it was common to always leave paper towels in there, so I just replaced them. No one discovered it until years later when it broke down. I've done a lot, but off the top of my head are 3 separate incidents. Keep in mind I was an only child, so there was no blaming another sibling. I was stupid enough to do these things without thinking of an excuse. I was about 5 years old. I covered the entire bathroom in baby lotion. I tried cleaning it and thought I had done well until my dad went in and slept. Also 5 years old. I covered the same bathroom in an entire container of baby powder. Couldn't clean that up with toilet paper, so I had to deal with those consequences when they came. I was probably 6 with this incident. My grandpa kept a beer mug-looking glass in the bathroom. I was curious just how absorbent the bath rug was, so I just continually dumped mugs of water on the rug until it started seeping from the sides. I went to bed and woke up to everyone freaking out about a new leak in the bathroom that had no apparent source. I was riding my bike into the forest behind my dad's house and looking back because someone was saying something I don't remember. I turned to look in front of me only to see the top horizontal wooden post was still in place. I ended up clothes hanging myself and blacking out. I was 8. My younger brother always liked to make those rubber band bracelets. I think they were called rainbow looms or whatever, but one day he made a long rubber band rope instead of a normal bracelet, and me being the idiot I was, I set it up as a slingshot and was firing random shit around. For some reason I thought it would be cool to launch a Sharpie with it, and when I fired the slingshot it exploded against the wall and left black ink everywhere. My mom was furious and the stain was there for a couple of months before it got painted over. I was in kindergarten. At the time, I had a really big enthusiasm for dinosaurs, and because of that, I used to collect tree branches and rocks. I said that they are dinosaur bones, and I randomly started making a dino skeleton at the garden. Rocks were claws and skull, branches were random bones. So one day in kindergarten it was free time at the garden. We went out, a bunch of 6-year-olds, and spent our time. I have found a big rock that actually looks similar like a stegosaurus skull, and I really wanted to get it. The place was next to a soccer field, but it was barely used and in bad conditions. I grabbed the skull. After a few minutes to thinking, I went to the fence and I tried to put the rock on the field. I didn't want it to throw the rock, because I could have lost the trace. I wanted it close to the fence. I barely reached the top of the fence with me standing at my toes. The rock couldn't roll over, so kinda jumped to give it a push. It rolled back and landed on my head. I still have a bald part on my head, but it is barely visible. I didn't cry, I just was in shame. And I hid the rock and my bleeding wound on my head with leaves. Eventually the kindergarten women noticed it and took care of it. I thought my mom would be really angry, but she was scared. We eventually get the rock after when you leave the building there was a wood gate that is open and you can get into the garden. I still have that rock, great memory, DL. Doctor, I've wounded my head as a 6-year-old with a rock because I really wanted to hide a dinosaur skull-like rock from the other kids. Not joking when I say this, but everything I do is the stupidest thing. I can never do simple things. I'm always clumsy, sometimes my common sense is wacky, and I'm always judged and called an idiot. Sometimes I think, maybe I only exist to ruin my mom's life or to mess everything up. And sometimes, I just feel like I want to die, like my death would be suitable for everyone else's sake. I'm not writing this for your sympathy, but instead, I'm writing this to see what I think of myself. Because for some reason, I always see half the picture. Not me, but my sis and cousin Lowell. So they were about 5 or 6 and they were playing behind a small couch, and mind you, behind the couch is a wall plug and it's half coming undone because house is old. So we have been telling to stop playing behind the couch because of the unsafe wall plug. 10 minutes go by and they start crying and the lights dim like on and off dim lol. They both getting shocked because my sis decide to touch one of the wires hanging out of the plug and my calcing is holding her hand and both are shocked and stuck crying lol. I run up to them and push them aside and they still stuck to each other crying and screaming lol. They were okay, I mean as okay as you can be after being shocked lol.